Lane School of Architecture. And Margarita received her Master of Architecture degree from the Polytechnic in Catalonia. And she's since then, almost immediately after getting her degree, she founded an office. She founded Aldehofer, where they've been working continuously since the mid-90s on various projects. First in Spain, and now extended to a much broader geography, also including places in Latin America. As I say, Margarita is of Spanish origin, at least in her education, and has moved to the US and has been there for quite some time. She was for quite a while at the University of Virginia, and has recently, quite still some years ago, 5 years ago I think, gone to New Orleans, so remaining still in the South, I wouldn't even say deep South, where she is combining teaching and practice and writing. So like many of our speakers, it's a kind of a trialogue between those three things. Very interesting to know is that Margarita has just begun she's directing together with an engineer, a new dual degree program between landscape and engineering, looking at particularly coastal engineering and design, that will have its first class in August. So it's kind of exciting, the first, I think, degree of its kind that would be this dual degree. So the work of Margarita, as you see already from the title, has a lot to do with water and cities, and I think we'll hear about that. As I said, she's been teaching in quite a lot of different universities. And interesting to note, in terms of her publication, she's written a very, very nice book that came from a conference with a kind of manifesto called Ecologies of Prosperity. I suggest that all students read the text by Margarita with Alex Wall. That's this kind of manifesto. Also books about some of the work, like the water park. I think we'll see pieces of that. She's been on quite a lot of interesting juries, and actually has also been a woman who's regularly come to Leuven and engaging with students in various ways, thesis projects, world urbanism. So again, thank you very much for coming, Margarita.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's see. Self-presentation. So, thank you for coming. So, just briefly, I'd like to take some time to say that there's an office that we're 4 partners, so 2 old ones and 2 young ones. The young ones are in Barcelona and the oldest in New Orleans, and we collaborate, and we have this line of design research, 4 different lines of design research. One is cities and rivers, where since mid-90s we've been trying to make spaces of cohabitation between floods and urbanization. And so the other line of design research is cities and infrastructures, where we have worked on the integration of snow mobility infrastructure, tramway, and we are very much interested into mobility as one of the aspects of carbon reduction of emissions. The other is citizen restoration with facades and relationship with the past, with this obsession of continuity with the past. And then finally, we decided early on in our careers that we will not engage in any single house, except my cousin, one house, but we will not do anymore, and we were just focusing on social housing and collective housing as a way of constraint. And we've launched some months ago a monography, a book that is called Citizen Rivers. It collects, interestingly, some work and texts from different important people, including Kelly and Bruno, Elizabeth Mayer, Swan Ware, etc., but also a bullfighter who talks about balance that is super interesting to read. And also, as Kelly was mentioning, just to self-present, I did this, co-edited this book with Alex Wall that is on Ecologies of Prosperity, the title, but it's about socio-ecological urbanism and the tensions and the needs ahead of us, at least as practitioners. And this is my teaching. I'm also at the university now at Tulane. I'm engaging into this large-scale design research agenda with the National Academy of Sciences, studying from Texas to Florida. The plan is in 5 years to come up with strategies to advise the federal government on where to invest for climate adaptation in the near future. So today's lecture is, we are moving from the ideals of history that we thought we were having excellent presentations yesterday, to the battlefield of practice, the messy battlefield of practice with its frictions and its possibilities and impossibilities through the agents, etc. And I would like if we discuss at the end, from the frustrations of practice back to the battlefield of ideas, in a way, to have the loop of the things that we want to do in practice and are difficult, and what are the things that need to change to make that possible. So I categorized the presentation into 3, even though we're in the Metropolitan Park agenda. The fluvial parks are one type of Metropolitan Park, in my view, sometimes are linked to the resource water and the idea of floods and cohabitation with floods. Then the Metropolitan Forested Park, I bring one in Madrid, one piece of it, and then geographical park that has to do with the connection of slow mobility outside the confine of a compact city that are many in Spain. In these 3 categories, we'll jump through this series of built work, starting with the Suera riverfront recovery, which is, I try also to have always the rainfall associated to the region as a resource. So Brussels, for indication, is 785, and here we're talking about as little as 300 millimeters. This is a place that has a river, it's dry, and it's embedded into the humid agricultural zone of the river. There's a rich soil, and the city is above in a terrace that is dry. So this is a project of a transformation of a backyard of a town, a small town of 6,000 inhabitants. And typically, as you see in the red line, the road had these facilities along the road that are the high school, the slaughterhouse, the police and high school, etc. are, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Are in giving their back to the river, and typically just dumping grounds is this yellow line, was a landfill of dry materials. And when we were asked to do was to do a bullfight arena in this yellow circle you see there, and we didn't know what to do, but we knew what not to do. We knew that the bullfight arena will not be well placed in that only empty space between the city and the river. So we reframed the question, and that's what I was talking about yesterday. So this capacity of analysis of a place and saying no to a commission. So changing a commission of a building work, of a piece of architecture into something different, more complex. So let's zoom out, have a look at the whole river, and reframe the question again. So that this association had the bullfight arena in blue rented every summer. So instead of having this location, we decided to change the commission and have do like a urban plan of recovery of the river, recovery of the landfill, a lot of infrastructural changes, etc., and change this project that instead of being, it's a strategic plan instead of an architectural design. So that led to this project that is a bullfight arena that is an amphitheater open to the river floods. So above you have the sequence of floods, medium, low, medium, and high range of floods, and below the same sequence with the project in it. So a work in which the dynamics of the river are observed and understood as a positive agent that fertilizes the riparian forest and maintains it. So the idea of a linear park, a river park, where we also turn down dikes that were protecting from the floods to have this bay river flood. So you see in a schematic design, in level 1 is the town, and level 2 is the amphitheater open to the river, and level 3 is the terrace. And with climate change, of course, the fluctuations of water are going to be already more drastic. So the key of the question here is to have this topography on the other side controlled at a certain level. When this goes upper, higher than needed, the flood occurs into the left margin of the river. A project of microtopography, architecture, urbanism, all together in transparent way. So that was the first project of the office. It marked our way of thinking from that point on. So this is the piece of architecture that is integrated into the topography, and instead of being a building with facades, is a hole in the topography, an amphitheater that gets flooded time to time. The water enters where the bullfighters and exits where the bull. And this is this transparent transition from architecture to urbanism to the dreams of people, the resources that are available, the agents, the watershed authority, the associations, and all that during 5 years of tension to also reach out to European funds, and this kind of meta project of several scales and several years that ends this way. This is just the text of the bullfighter. So the project received the European prize in 2002, and then it was exposed in the Expo 2005 of Flood at that time, when in Rotterdam they were discussing, we were part of the table in that discussion about the increasing the defense or updating the infrastructure of defense of the country. So some years later, the discussions about room for the river emerged, and all these floodability and tensions between agriculture and making room for the river were deployed. And we, from that moment on, we, at least in the Western context, start to see more and more projects on this floodable public space. And here in the book, there is a diagram with having a chronology of the different projects that we've been able to track in relation to that floodability. So in that work, the idea of the fluvial park came in this case, instead of being public space floodable or recovering the floodability of a river in its margins, in immediate margins of the river. In this case, the innovation comes because it's a negotiation. So the river, instead of being widened, we make room for the river inside the meander across the built space. And it is a space of negotiation because there are other values, like cultural values associated to agriculture, in this case organic agriculture, and also neighborhoods on the side. So the first negotiation is just the tip of the meander. Typically, as you all know, the tip of the meander is the river, and the typical section is this one, where an ecological solution would have been to widen the river, but instead, because this is a really rich land that has been grown over centuries, we see this map for centuries and in historic maps, we decided to make room for the river inside the meander to alleviate the floods of this neighborhood on this side. So that's the first negotiation to agriculture, is to keep the richest agriculture even and make the river run inside. So that means redirecting the floods, and that decision was because the microtopography was already indicating a low point in this area here. So it was flooding so the river is going in this direction, but it was flooding backwards. So that was an indication of that the river was already doing this maneuver. So what we did was to turn down a dike here on the edge of the meander to make this entrance to the river. At a certain point in elevation, the river was entering through this new inner river that we call the floodable forest. Okay. Oh, the pointer. Okay, thank you. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, so that turning down this dike here and allowing the river to go through. Thank you. So that's the moment of construction where the maximum volume never registered in 30 years occurred while we were doing this construction, and you see that the river entered here and it was working quite decently well. And here's a little bit of a short 30 seconds scary entrance of the river into the inner river. Not in construction, once it was built. So the thing about negotiation of projects and spaces, public spaces for citizens and for river, the inner river gets flooded, as you see here. In the newspaper it says that it has mitigated the floods of the neighborhoods on the side. And this is the space of cohabitation where you have tables and benches, some months of the year, and some others is for the river. And so this cohabitation of seasonal space, it's also educational in a way. Then third negotiation is with buildings, and this, of course, is not housing, but that's a headquarters of the Organic Agriculture Association in Navarra, in Pamplona. So you have this capacity to get flooded with an inside, and the floods before intervention and after, with this inner river in action. So that idea of the flood and using water as a resource to feed green corridors or expand the functionality of this riparian forest, because typically agriculture has taken space to the forest, the linear riparian forest, and most of the projects in this line of work is about turning dike and increasing floodability and planting riparian species to gain these linear corridors, ecological connections. So this is the third one in the series. In Zaragoza, it's at the regional scale. Zaragoza is located in this watershed. This project is done in collaboration with Christine Dalnoki, and in the moment she was with Patrick Solvet. And it's part of a larger scale strategy of the city that has a north, south, east, and west metropolitan parks, cardinal parks, two along the river and two in both sides of the city. So the Metropolitan Water Park is part of a larger strategy of recovering the river as a major street, as a principal spine, green spine. So, along with this park, there's a lot of series of projects along the river to recover public space. This is the Roman, as you see, the Roman city, and the third belt that was built for the International Exposition of 2008, and along with the International Exposition that was inside this precinct of 25 hectares, the investment, the national and regional investment, allowed a metropolitan park of 125 hectares for the city. So, but the thing is that I wanted to emphasize maybe like 4 or 5 ideas, because we're going to go full into it. In yellow is the precinct of the Expo, in green is a Metropolitan Water Park, so it's a regional park in which the water cycle is quite important. I will not get into the landscape itself or the vegetation strategy, but just focus on the water. So water cycle In lamination, the first big impetus is to reduce the speed of floods, of water flow through the park before it gets and traverses the city of Zaragoza. So there's a huge effort of planted form to reduce energy. So that's the first idea, which is lamination. So you see here to the left the agricultural field, and then in orange the dike of water protection that we close here on that space, but we also turn down dikes that are in the edge, and to allow more floodability or more frequency of floodability on that edge. So that means thousands of planted trees in this new floodable area that will laminate the energy of the river's flood going down towards Zaragoza. So the park accommodates these floods, the floods of the river, but it also accommodates the floods coming bottom up from the ground floor up to the surface of the park. So that while we're building this, you can see that the brown water, which is the water of the river, flows downstream with a lot of sediments, but the water that comes from the water table alone is quite transparent, and it goes up 10 centimeters or so, 10, 12 centimeters, and go down again. So the obsession was to keep as permeable as possible the ground, to make this breathable surface possible. Here you see all that brown because the hydraulic doors associated to the dike were not built, and here is where you see the mix of transparent water with brown water. But then when it's built years later, as you see in this, you see how, especially in this one, how the inside of the park gets flooded through permeable water from the ground up, while the exterior gets with rich sediments that boost the growth of this forest. So then reinforced forest with riparian species have gone through the years, 15 years, now almost 10 years. So one thing I wanted to highlight is the landscape, and at least what is the way we understand landscape is, the landscape is not to be drawn. We never say that we draw landscape. The landscape is a result of relationship between the territory and the society inhabiting it. But a garden is a different thing. A garden it's not landscape. So landscape is, in our view, the relationship between a territory and a society. And we make the emphasis on lifestyle as creation of landscape, as the motor of landscape. So that's why somehow you see these inherited geometries. Moving so from lamination to water quality improvement, the transformation of this existing water infrastructure into this water improvement, the improvement of water quality of the river, taken from the river as an object into the park. So that's the water system for water quality improvement, to be able to bath at the end, and then to irrigate the park as well. So the strategy of this cut and fill, these canals that you've seen here of a meter are transformed with a cut and fill in place into this new topography where these elevated paths are more protected from floods and serve some type A of building, different types of buildings depending on their level with floods, and so that provides this access. And those are these canals with these buildings at the end, which are anchors, we'll see visually. And so this water system serves a beach, like a dreamed beach. Zaragoza is a city of 700,000 inhabitants that every summer everyone goes to the beach, to the Mediterranean Sea, 300 kilometers with a car. So the idea of having a beach in the city, it's a strategy to reduce carbon emissions, to keep people in the city if they want to, and also to provide access to this to everyone. To this dream notion of being in contact with water in a beach. So the interior of the system is these canals and ponds where water through this system of decantation, wetland phytodecoration and then conservation is brought to the last part, to about 4 planets. So infiltration is just what I mentioned about this breathability of the inside of the park. And then in terms of urbanism, the proposal includes, so all the park is at the level of the river, is in the river plain, so it gets flooded and unflooded in these two strategies. But then we have this transition space that is filled with earth at the same level of the city, 5 meters above the river, and is this threshold between the city and the river, which is inhabited forest strategy with this urbanistic organization, where we did a couple of buildings and the rest have been evolving over time with different types of buildings. And this is this new threshold with a framework where this platform is raised above which you have this Grand Canal of 25 meters by 400 meters of long, where you have the first phase of the condition of solids. And then in terms of architecture, the cohabitation with different levels of floats, and the upper level we have a type of building, while in the lower level we have other types of buildings. And another obsession that transitions to the second category is this idea of the backyard. So that this is a power plant, and power plant and electrical substations are typically located in the backyard of cities. They are fenced, they are not supposed to be nearby you. But we think that if you conceive the planet with no backyard, there's a challenge on design, which means that rethinking, reintegrating, scaling down infrastructures to be able, for them to be able to cohabit with anyone in a close proximity. So that's a challenge of this infrastructure that is compact, has 3-4 floors, and it's meant to communicate its function to the public, which is the generation of heat and cold through its facade. Another piece of architecture that is cohabiting with floats is this theater that is embedded into the water table and acts as a boat and has hydraulic doors, but it also has pumps in the building. When there is filtration of water, you pump it out. And so this cohabitation with the floats is another type of strategy. So fluvial parks, where the idea is to take advantage of water as a resource to increase green spaces in overall places where the rainfall is not really high. We have range from 300 to 400 millimeters. Moving into Madrid Metropolitan Forest, this is a project that is won the competition in 2021, and it's still on the kitchen, let's say. I don't have much to show in terms of build work, but we'll show some ideas, concept that can be inspiring, perhaps in your journeys. So the first thing to highlight again is the 400 millimeters. It's located in Madrid, in the center of the country. And one thing I want to highlight is that the country is one of the most associated with mountains, I would say, because the whole country is in a plateau. At least the whole meseta is 600 meters above sea level. From that moment, the mountains emerge. And so Madrid is just in the center, at the foothills of the Guadarrama mountains that are 2,000 meters above sea level. And they are always snowed. This Guadarrama, which is this like here is a spine, and the foothill of this mountain range is the city of Madrid. But it has only 400 millimeters. Traditionally, the city was fed with canals that were feeding the city with canals to fountains, and from fountains to the people. And in the 19th century, late 19th century, it changed its water infrastructure supply, taking from rivers as many other cities. But to show that it's arid, even though it's at the foothill of this, and it's in a context of increasing aridification. So also a notion, because Belgium and Central Europe are totally different landscapes. So I want to emphasize that Spain is one of the countries in Europe with a larger quantity of population, 80% concentrated only in urban areas. So compact nodes and empty land with agriculture. So, and then the millimeters change quite a lot. From the north is 1,700, while here you have 500, 300, 600. So zooming in here, and the metropolitan in Madrid, so this metropolitan forest is conceived at the foothill, as I was mentioning, of this Guadarrama mountain range, and the center, this yellow patch, is the community of Madrid, the region, and inside the region is Madrid capital, which is the red hatch with a white line around, and it's traversed, bisected by the river. The Manzanares River in the yellow line that goes north-south from the mountain down to the Tajo River that will lead to Portugal and to Lisbon. And so this Manzanares River is the spine of Madrid as a capital. And so the competition is framed in a really intelligent way, in my view, in terms of this idea of the green belt that surrounds Madrid, the red, the white line, connecting itself with the regional parks, both on the river and also in the mountain. So having a connection from the city to regional park, city, metropolitan park, regional park, open space. So the competition is launched along with several agenda of the 2030. This is the website of the Metropolitan Forest. It comes also with an agenda of mobility reform that includes the reform of public transit zones of 30 and 50 kilometers an hour in the center, and restrictions in emissions, etc. So it comes as a pair of projects, Madrid 360 and Bosque Metropolitano. The ambition here is to connect existing patches